Is that my screen is visible? Is my screen is visible to everyone? Sam, Suleiman?
Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect,
Absolutely.
perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, great. We will wait a while. There are some five people are there also. Give me one. All right. So, guys, let's start. We'll discuss more detail on this. Okay. So, as per our last session, we have discussed that there are the different team are there in cybersecurity. So, there are the several interactions we require. Like as we discussed about the system team, we have discussed about there is like installation team. We have something called as uh, they require to do the necessary installations for the applications. They maintain the server. So this is the duty for the system engineer. The same way, we have the network team, right? Now, what exactly the network team are going to do? What are their tasks? So the network team will design the entire network here. It depends upon what are the network components can be there. So based on that, what that component will use in order to design, right? So planning, designing, and maintaining the different network architecture that happens. That can be like routers, switches. We have different internet components that can be get added. Okay, so that can be a switches or that can be considered as different servers, databases. All those can be there. Okay, so we can see the computer servers. We can see the wireless controls. So the network engineers will design based on the requirement. As we can see that they install and maintain all the network devices like routers, switches, they use access points. They have something called as the network cables, with the wide or wireless connection. They're going to design the network something like this. So as we discussed that, this is a very important for us to get understand how the team are working. We have already discussed in the last session, if you remember, endpoint security, right? So endpoint security is nothing but like endpoint are the devices, the network on the network. What are the devices we are connecting? That is will be considered as a endpoint, right? So where we can see we'll do the installations, we'll do the configurations, we'll maintain all the ESS systems, endpoint security solutions that we have the antivirus, we have like host-based firewalls. We know it is contained with the intrusion prevention systems. We have like disk encryption. We have DLP technology, the data loss prevention method, where we can see that. So where we can see these are the technologies, EDR. So we have like EDR, we call it the endpoint detection response. So this is our something related to the ESS system. We call it the endpoint security solution, right? The same way, we need to protect the network also because if we are protecting endpoint, that's fine, but that is also possible. The attack may happen to the network, right? So the network security is very important. Here we can see that we need to protect the network. configurations, maintenance, how the network components are there, what are the different devices are there, what type of traffic that is getting passed, right? Have you ever heard about something called as a firewall? Anybody of you? Sam, do you have any idea about the firewall? What do you mean by that? Adam, Sam, anyone? Have you ever heard about the something called as a firewall? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, the firewall is, I believe, a protection system against external attacks.
Correct, correct. So the firewall can be considered as a network security devices, right? So they're going to see what type of applications can be getting access over the network, what type of traffic that can be get passed, what type of traffic that are incoming traffic, outgoing traffic. Those are we need to check about it. So that is nothing but the firewall where we can see that. We have intrusion prevention systems where we can see that web gateways, there are the several web related security we required. We have email gateways which are going to protect an email which might may contain suspicious software that phishing emails might be there, malware can be there. So that will be getting sent it. So that need to be get protected here. So email gateway will be the point where it can take task of seeing that what type of email is getting into the organization, what type of information it contains here. Okay. So we have wireless securities, we have web services, we call it the web applications firewall, which again very important here. So this is the some of the network components, right? Network security components where we can be considered. Now, what next is important? We have another team, we call it the information security team. So what exactly these information security team are doing it? Conducting the regular audit. So what do you mean by the audit here? Audit are nothing but we call as it's kind of evaluation. They have examinations of the components that can be checking about what are the controls they have it, what type of the process the organizations have it, what are the policies they have it. Have you ever heard about audit something like this anytime? If you have some idea about it, no idea. Anyone? No one. So if I'll say you about the audit will be considered as some of the policies that need to be get examined, that need to evaluate, that need to understand how does it working. They've been designed that will be in practice for maintaining those compliance here. There will be how this compliance will be there, what are the different uh, type of audit is required. That is it all depends upon the adherence to what organizations the business they are doing it. Those are the areas where you can see that. So whenever we are talking about the audit system, which need to be get understand what is the method and what are the policies are there. So that's a very important concept while we are discussing about it. So where we can see that there's an audit, we have the different security policies need to be get draft. There is something called as the regular conducting and awareness here. So how the people are working. So they've been given certain type of exams that related to the data protections, that related to how the IT assets can be used in the organization. They are completely manage all those policies. That is we call it the GRC method, governance, risk, and compliance. So where we have a complete different subject on this, we're going to discuss that as well. How the PCI DSS can be there, what is the GDPR, we have HIPAA. So these are some of the standards, standard bodies are there where they maintain, they have certain policies that need to be had. So that's how the audit can be done. We have vulnerability assessment team. Vulnerability assessment team are nothing but the team which have been going to examine the entire systems, right? So they use an automated tools to scan the network to identify the vulnerabilities in applications and systems. What type of applications are there? What type of vulnerabilities they have it. So they've been using certain applications in order to scan those and get it. like what sort of vulnerabilities that will can be find over these components here. So if we find some, let's say that if we found certain things here, so we're going to analyze the report, we're going to work with the various teams to fix these vulnerabilities, like how those are there, what type of the process are there in order to take actions on this. So in a very simple way, that process of it is called as a patch management, the patching. So patching is nothing but whatever the vulnerabilities are there, we are going to patch those in order to make sure that the attacker should not take an advantage of these vulnerabilities. So vulnerabilities can be considered as a with these vulnerabilities the attack may happen. So it isn't threat. It can be a risk that the organizations may have it, right? So that need to be get focused. This is how it's going. We have IM team, we call it an identity access management team. So this just comes on all the authorizations, like what type of permissions you have it, what type of access you have it. So in a very simple way, they create and manage identity access right of the people. That can be the employees, that can be the customers. What type of rights you have it. Everyone have not equal rights, correct? Everyone have. There are the certain defined based on the privilege, based on what job role they have it. So that is how the users will get an access to it. So IAM tools we use, which is used for the user accounts. They have been using for the password reset. They've been using for granting an access, what type of permissions they require. So this is all comes into the IAM team, identity access management team. Then we have SOC team. So as we discussed so far, the SOC team is a security operations center team. So they are going to monitor, detect, and investigate if any threat happens. And based on that, we're going to respond to those cyber threats. So in a very simple way, we are the working with the different teams here, like subject matter expert team, SME, in order to remediate any type of the security incident if it is taking place. Like we understand what type of incident is happening, like what are the actions we're going to take over this. So in a very simple way, we going to investigate and take an action. So these actions are completely related to the mitigate incident, whatever the incident happens, right? So those are very important concepts, right? So we can see like we have a different tools like SIM, we call it the security information and event management. We have SOAR, we have threat intelligence tools. We can see like we have different type of analysis tools. So this is our required tools which we needed while we working on it. Okay. So as a SOC analyst, what we're going to do? We are the centralized to the organizations where we're going to discuss, we're going to monitor all the applications, systems, networks, endpoints, network securities, vulnerability assessment, IM team, help desk, everything. Entire systems we're going to monitor. If any vulnerabilities are there, we're going to fix on this. This is how the security team will work, the SOC team will work. So if we'll see that how the SOC came, so what is the reason for that? How the evolution of SOC has happened. So let me give you a very simple example. There are different attacks happens in the past. In the year of 2008 and 2010, there was an attack called the Stucknet. This is considered as first cyber weapon, which has been designed by an America and Israel in order to bring down the Iran's nuclear power plant with an intention they have designed. So, but what I want you to understand here, see, this is a very big machine. There are some very big operations they are doing, but they have no idea about it. They don't know what is going into this critical asset. That is what the attack has happened. But not only this, but there is also more possibilities are there. We can see some major attacks happens in the past. We can see Sony Picture have faced an attack in 2014. So they will be considered as we have something called as the name of Guardians of Peace. These are the attacker team which have released the confidential data from film studios on the pictures. Let me give you one quick idea about this, how this has happened. Let's have a one use case here. Okay. So guys, here let's have a look on this. One of the use case which I want you to understand. So here we can see that November 2014, how it happens, what was the reason is there. Let's understand. So we can see that November 24, 2014, the hacker group called as the Guardians of Peace, which is the form of Lazar group. Okay, this is a group which is made it the different individuals are there in that. So they had the information, the confidential data from film studios, Sony Pictures. So these data, which is include like employees' email, we can see personal and family information, executive salaries, copies of unreleased films, future films plans, screenplay, and so on. So these make it huge loss. Not only these, but there was a different attack happens to Yahoo has faced an attack, Visa has faced an attack, Subway faced an attack. We can see Target has faced an attack. So these are the some past attack happen with the when these attacks are taking place, everybody is worried about it. Who is safe in the internet when these attacks is happening? How are we going to protect the critical assets? What area of securities we can design for these organizations? So for that, they understand they have seen what is this happening. So what happening here? Whenever the attack is taking place, the organizations will take almost 6 to 7 months to detect these attacks. This is one of the fallback here. You got my point. The second important thing is that 80 days before, the attackers are going and indications, giving an indication, but nobody is there to focus on that. That is one another problem where we see that. And 70% of time, the attacks are detected by an external. Now, what does it mean by that? I want you to ask very simple question here. Okay, let's ask Sam. Sam, let me answer. Just answer me this question. Imagine a situation, some illegal transactions happens on your bank account, right? What would be your first action here? What are you going to do?
Call the call the bank to alert them, or just block.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to take a necessary action. First, we're going to block the card and call the bank, right? And going to report this, right? So now here, focus that when we are calling to the bank and reporting these, so who we are not the bank employees, we are not the bank security person. We are just an external entity. It means like bank also have no idea what type of activities happening to their servers. Attackers are able to get an access to their servers. They might use the different vulnerabilities, get an access to those systems, and do different type of illegal transactions. Now, when we reported them, there is something happens with my account. Certain amount has been transferred to certain account. Then the bank noticed that they start investigating that through which channel this amount has been get withdrawn. If that happens within due to the customer error, or that happens due to bank vulnerability. So it means like 70% of time they're going to get any vulnerabilities when they get reported. This is what the major problem they have faced. Now, in order to come over these, let's understand what happens. Whenever the attack happens, it takes much time to detect. So attack happens in the month of April and they detect it in the month of November. So there is a huge gap. So attackers has attacked in the month of April. In November they have been. So it means like the attacker was there in the system since May, June, July, August, September, October, November. It is huge data they have compromised. And even the attacker has done something in the month of January initially in order to get an access. There was an indication, but nobody were there to monitor that. There's no SOC team were there to find out what type of activities is happening. There was no alerting systems are there. So that's the reason. The root cause analysis said that there is a lack of visibility. So here we got security need to be get monitored. What type of activities is happening. what type of the process they are doing it. So they need to be have a security monitoring systems, and they're going to monitor the entire asset. They're going to see like what sort of activities is happening and what need to be checked here. So now here, when we are monitoring these, what is an important thing is that? Important thing is that we should be monitor all the activities in the form of logs. Now, what is this logs? Logs are nothing but whatever the activities is happens on the devices, right? Let me just quickly give you one example. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to give you one example here. So here we can see that when we are collecting the data, right, from these assets, let's say that these are the asset lists. Through these asset lists, we are collecting the data in the form of events and logs to the SIM tool. So what is these events logs? So these are the log types. So the logs are being generating from printers, Windows machine, authentications log, network traffic log, access log, applications log, security logs, DNS log. There are all the assets will generate the log. Let me give you one example. Here, if I'll go to event viewer in my system, as we can see that we have the Windows log. Over these, we can see that related to the applications, related to the security, related to the setup, related to the system, whatever the activities happens, we are getting these logs to the SIM tool. Now, what is the SIM tools are like? Example here. Let's have a look on this. The SIM tool, something like these here. Let me just give you one quick example. I believe you can see my screen, and I believe it's very clear, visible to everyone, right? So here we can see that I'll just click on this. This is one of my SIM tool where I'm collecting the data from my local machine. So I'm going to give you some information. Let's say that the index where my data is there into the main folder. Let me tell you that later. Just send that to me. Like I want to see like last 1 minute what activities is happening. If I click on these, I can be able to see all these data here. Can you see that? So this is the information related to the security here. So I can be able to see these informations which are going to give me the complete detail about what type of activities happens on the particular endpoint here. So we are collecting these data here. So these data which can help us to understand the activity which is happening on the system. So this is coming from the system, servers, network security devices, firewalls, EDRs, antivirus, network devices, all those whatever the assets we have there, we are collecting these data. So these data which are going to give us the information about how does it work here. So we are collecting the data from multiple assets here. If I give you one quick example here, if I go to the setting, if I go to the data sources here, so SIM will collect the data from multiple sources here. So these sources can be anything. So we can be getting data from HTTP. We can monitor different databases. We can upload the log. We can collect the data from here. So these are been getting the data from the local machines here. If I can see that what are the local events are there, remote events are there, what are the HTTP events are there, everything. Active directories are there where we can monitor these data here. But the challenge is that the logs are not similar. Every asset have their own syntax of creating logs. If example, this is a web application log, it's completely different. And this log is Linux logs. This is completely different. And these logs are the Windows logs. So what we know that the logs have their own syntax. Every asset will create the logs based on their asset. And these logs are into the huge volume. 25 million logs per day, 300 logs per second. So it means like it depends. It depends upon the type of assets what we have it. that much logs we're going to receive. So here, what I want you to understand that the SIM tool is there, which we are going to do the practice example. This is the SIM tool. Okay. So there are several different SIM tools out there. We'll discuss that. So the security information event management. So where what exactly we are doing with this SIM tool? We are collecting the data from these assets, and the logs are sending to the SIM tool. SIM tools are going to give us the suspicious activities if it is happening. So these suspicious activity we're going to monitor, and we're going to handle those logs here. So as a SOC analyst, when we are working, it's very important for us to know what activity is happening. For that, we have the solutions called as a SIM here, the security information event. The problem, there is a huge data, huge log, which not readable for them. This is the root cause for them. But what is the solution for this? The solutions we got to know that the same tool, which is going to give an accuracy in our data, and we can understand what type of activity is happening with our critical assets. So this is how the same tool works. If I give you one real analogy, see here this person met with an accident. So he may die, he may get it with a serious injury or something like that. What is the problem here? What is the root cause is that he's not wearing the helmet. But the solution is that he must wear the helmet here. But on the request, the people will not do. For that, they have certain rules enforcement. As we can see that we have a different country, have the different departments here. In UK, we call it the driver and vehicle license agency. In India, we call it the RTO. In USA, we call it the DMV. So what they do is, if you're not following the rules, you have to pay the fine. Then the people start following the rules. The similar way in the cyber security also, we have like regular compliance, the best industry practice. So example that PCI, GDPR, HIPAA. So they made it like security monitoring are mandatory here. So whatever the activity is happening, that need to be get monitored and going to understand how does it working on, what type of activities they have done. So this is what where we need to understand in a very detailed manner and understand the process. How does it work? Okay. So this is how the SOC team have been working. So they use the same tools. They monitor the asset. If anything goes wrong, we're going to take an action. So the security operations center is the point where we are going to monitor the entire asset, and the person who works under that is called the security analyst. So this is a very basic concept, which we have discussed, just an introduction to known things. But we're going to discuss step by step in detailed way. How does it work? What what things is happen? Like what ins and outs, everything. We're going to discuss that in step by step process in detail about it in coming sessions. Okay. So we are going to have these sessions from Monday to Friday. Okay. We don't have Monday to Thursday, we have the sessions. We don't have like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if you have any doubts or any problems, you're going to reach with us, using a WhatsApp. We have a group, we're going to create a group and where all the members are there. My team are there. I'll also be there in that. So if you have any questions during the sessions or after the session, after the session duration, if you have any problem, we can discuss that. Got it? So this is all about today's session, guys. So thank you very much for listening me. I'm going to meet you. That is on Monday. Till that, my team will talk to you and give you the complete detail about the process what we are going to do. And if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask. Sam, is there any question from your end?
Okay. No, no, yeah, it's all good. Thank you, Shad.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Happy weekend. Bye. Good night.